Chapter 16. Judgement. Come morning, they were given water and bread as a meager breakfast. The guards grinned as they handed it over. "Eat well, stone men. Sentence comes," one of them said in a rough voice before walking back outside. The walls of a tent felt like they were pressing in closer as a few rays of sun seeped through the dusty canvas flap. Ghalen chewed the dry, tasteless bread, each bite grating against his throat. Fear had turned his stomach to ice, leaving no room for appetite. He watched Haldor, who forced down a few bites with grim determination, fueling his body for whatever ordeal might come. Venus sipped her water, murmuring silent prayers beneath her breath. Pyor looked nervous as he nibbled on a corner of bread, his wide eyes flitting between the faces of his companions. Lily was facing the wall, hands clasped behind her back. The guards' laughter echoed through the canvas, a cruel reminder of their situation. Their amusement felt like another layer of chains binding them. Time crawled by, measured only by the lengthening shadows on the tent floor. Then the flap rustled open again, revealing the sneering faces of the guards. This time, they carried a single cracked bowl filled with a vicious blood-colored liquid. Silence descended over the tent as the guards approached Ghalen. One guard stopped in front of Lily, squinting as he examined her face. He called out to one of his comrades in their guttural tongue, tracing a finger along his own face to mimic the shape of Lily's markings. Two of them stared at her for a few moments, clearly unaccustomed to seeing someone like her. Then, with a shrug, the guard smeared some of the liquid onto Lily's face. Moving on to Ghalen, the guard brought the bowl closer, and the stench of metal wafted in the air. Ghalen recoiled as a coppery scent twisted his insides. "Stay still," the guard commanded, his voice a rough rasp. Ghalen stiffened as the guard dipped his fingers into the bowl and painted lines across his face. Haldor stepped forward, frowning at the guard who repeated the gesture on him. Soon, they were all painted with bloody symbols on their cheeks and foreheads. As the guard led them out, the sun beat down on their backs. The smell of blood was thick in Galen's nose, a grim reminder of what lay ahead. They were led down a path lined by spears thrust into the ground, their wooden shafts worn and splintered, yet sharp enough to deter escape. Galen's earlier suspicions were confirmed as the path opened to the round structure they had seen upon arrival. The village had seemed eerily deserted, with only faint murmurs of voices carried on the wind. Now the source of the noise became clear. Before them loomed a crude but imposing wooden arena, its bleachers rising in uneven tiers. Packed with villagers, the crowd buzzed with anticipation, their eyes alight with mixture of bloodlust and grim excitement. The air was heavy with a scent of sweat, wood, and something far more acrid: death. The arena floor stretched wide and circular, a coarse expanse of sand stained in patches of dark red. Dried blood, hinting of past battles. Scattered across the sand were remnants of combat, broken swords with jagged edges, shattered shields, and the splintered remains of spears. Interspersed among them were darker shapes, bones, both human and animal. Some picked clean, others with fragments of flesh clinging to them like grotesque reminders of their owners' fates. In the center of the arena, there was a gaping pit. Ghalen thought he could see sharp edges of stakes inside. The wood was dark, slick in places with dried blood, their tips bearing grim trophies of past sacrifices. They were marched toward a raised platform where the chieftain sat, watching with an air of authority. His massive wooden chair, carved with crude but menacing patterns, overlooked the pit and the entire arena. His expression was unreadable, but the faint smirk curled at the corner of his lips betrayed a hint of satisfaction as his latest captives were brought before him. He addressed them. "I am Chieftain Kakor. Bear mental in your speech." He slammed his bare chest. "I lead people of Elgric, one of 6 chieftains. We follow the Mother of Forest," he said, reaching his hands towards the sun, then pointing to the lake. 2 charges you have, invaders. 2 charges. He rose, putting his hands on the railings of the arena. "Killing of beast and trespass on sacred land. To prove right to kill beast, you face greatest beast in strength. To walk sacred land, you must pass judge. In the circle of strength, you prove strength and honor, or die without." He spat in the blood-covered sand below him. Do you accept, stonemen? The chieftain questioned. His gaze sternly settled on each member of the group.
What happens if we refuse?
Ghalen asked. There was no reply, except the grin of the chieftain and hundreds of bows drawn toward them in the circle.
We accept,
Ghalen said. The chieftain began a chant in his native tongue, the words rough and repetitive. As the resonant chant ended, the surrounding crowd erupted in a roar of approval. The group was then ushered to the other side of the arena and into its depths. As stepped inside, a guard motioned toward the center and grunted, his words even more challenging to decipher than the chieftain's. Weapon there! With that, he shut the gate. The once deafening cheers of the crowd outside were silenced, leaving the party alone in the vastness of the arena. They surveyed the ground for relics of past contests and saw shattered weapons and branches. The chieftain's voice boomed out, deep and guttural, reminiscent of wild animals' growl. To Galen's horror, an answering roar echoed back. Another gate, opposite them, rose, revealing a monstrous bear. Its thick, matted fur was a tapestry of jagged scars, some white with age, others fresh and raw. Beneath a furrowed brow, wild eyes, the colors of a gray sky, scanned the arena. The crowd erupted in cheers at the sight.
Oh, light! That thing has to be twice as tall as you, Pyor!
Haldor croaked out. Lume, help us! Ghalen, jaw clenched, shook his head. Fear was a luxury he couldn't afford. The chieftain called out in common, Show strength against beast! Feet force, lord! Migor!
Can we use magic?
Ghalen shouted towards the chieftain. Use any trick you like, little one. The chieftain laughed. Ghalen wasted no time.
Pyor, Haldor, secure weapons.
He ordered.
Fina, tend to our wounds if need be, and be prepared to conjure. I'll signal when we need it. I'm sorry for any burden this may put on you,
he said, meeting her gaze. Fina responded by beginning a soft chant, her hands clasped as if seeking divine guidance.
Remember, protect Lily at all costs. She's the heart of our mission. Unless we get her to the gate, all our efforts will have been in vain.
Yes, Ghalen!
The two Kingsguard exclaimed in tandem. In the chaos, Ghalen saw Lily searching desperately. She was breathing hard. What can I do? There must be something I can do. The words spurted out as her breath got faster and faster.
Just stay back, Lily.
Pyor picked up the remnants of a splintered spear, and Haldor clutched a battered shield and an axe. Every step the colossal bear took resonated with an ominous power, causing the ground beneath them to tremble. Lily stumbled upon a modest hammer, the kind a craftsman might use. She clutched it, grip tightening until her knuckles whitened. Ghalen unearthed a sword from the sand, its edge worn from age.
It might not cut, but it could blind the creature if aimed right,
he muttered.
We'll hold it off, but I don't think we can kill it. Any ideas, Ghalen?
Haldor asked.
Cross formation!
Pyor added. Together, they resembled young boys rather than grown men, in contrast to the beast as they took a defensive stance against it.
Buy me one moment,
Ghalen shouted. With that, they both darted toward the beast, drawing its divided attention. Haldor aimed for its legs, slashing as he passed. It let out a roar and retaliated with surprising speed, its swipe causing the ground to tremble. Haldor faltered, but Pyor, with no moment to ponder, thrust his spear into a vulnerable joint of the beast. Pyor's reward was a powerful backhand that sent him sprawling into the sand. Rising painfully, he cursed.
It moves faster than a killed duelmaster! Are you alright?
Haldor cried.
Nothing more than a broken rib. The beast is toying with us. That blow should have killed me.
Pyor answered as he spat blood from his mouth. Galen's eyes darted to the tall, dried branches scattered around the arena. They looked brittle, perfect for kindling. His gaze then shifted back to the pit at the arena center, its sharpened stakes glinting menacingly. An idea took shape. The stakes might just be enough to impale the beast. He bellowed.
The pit is our plan, but first we need a spark. Fina, is it possible?
He turned to her, knowing what pain he had just asked her to endure. Without waiting for an answer, he began gathering the dried branches nearby, his hands moving quickly as a plan solidified in his mind. Fina, with a determined nod, began her incantation. releasing her clenched hands from a prayer, reaching her right hand to the branches and dropping some etched stones, and with a commanding hymn, Elethamento Ginin. She clenched her hands into fists. The branches ignited and she crumbled, holding her arm, reeling in pain. Ghalen charged at the beast, swinging the burning branches wildly. The flames made it hesitate, retreating a step toward the pit. Then it lunged. Pyor and Haldor struck in unison, their blades flashing, but the creature's massive paw swept them aside with brutal force. Ghalen waved the fire again, desperate to keep it at bay, but the beast barely flinched. Its paw lashed out, catching him with a glancing blow. Pain exploded through his side as he was hurled backwards, hitting the ground hard. The impact drove the air from his lungs, and his vision dimmed.
Get up! Get up! Get up!
His muscles screamed in protest, but he forced himself to move. Slowly, the world came back into focus, a blurry swirl of blood-stained sand and flickering shadows. He saw Lily rise, hammer clutched tightly in her trembling hands. Tears streamed down her face as she staggered toward the beast. The creature turned its eyes toward her, its focus shifting away from Ghalen. But before she could swing, Lily faltered. She gasped, clutching her chest and crumbling to the ground. Pyre held the beast at bay with a long pole, bracing against its relentless advance. The bear swiped with a powerful paw, shattering the pole into a spray of splinters. Pyre was left with nothing but his bare fists. Yet, he stood his ground, defiance blazing in his eyes.
Come here then, you devil!
He shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos.
Show me how tough you really are!
The bear reared back, then slamming its massive paws into the ground. The impact sent tremors rippling through the arena, knocking Pyre to his knees. He tried to rise, but the beast's deafening roar seemed to drain the last of his strength, leaving him trembling in its shadow. Ghalen blinked furiously, fighting to focus amid the chaos. His gaze darted around until he spotted Lily again. Through her pain, she was pointing at the scattered branches. The flames on them had died, but the small fire Fina had lit still burned, a flickering beacon of hope. Gritting his teeth, Ghalen forced himself to his feet.
The branches! Haldor!
He bellowed.
Into the fire! We must drive the beast into the pit!
His voice rang with urgency as he turned to Fina, regret flickering across his face.
We need to get past it. Fina, can you hold it off for just a moment?
With a grim nod, she rose to her feet. She threw blue-etched stones toward the beast and clasped her shaking hands together. The runes hummed with energy next to the beast. For a heart-stopping moment, the beast froze, immobilized by Fina's spell. It was just enough time for Pyre to avoid the beast's next attack and for Ghalen and Haldor to ignite the branches. The runes cracked, and Fina staggered, her forearms turning pink. Her contribution had come at a high cost, and she collapsed to the ground. As they confronted the bear with their flaming branches, it retreated a few more steps. It snarled and growled, but continued backing toward the edge of the pit.
Just a few more paces!
Ghalen shouted. Then a gust of wind swept across the arena. The makeshift torches blew out, and nothing but small streaks of smoke remained. The crowd fell into hushed anticipation as the bear rose onto its hind legs, ready to deliver a fatal blow. Pyre turned to Ghalen.
Take care of her, Ghalen. Tell her I love her.
He said with a smile. Then he lunged, all his strength channeled into a desperate tackle that sent both him and the beast plummeting into the pit. Ghalen could only watch in horror as his friend and the beast disappeared into the dark abyss. He felt something creeping in, a shadow swallowing the light. His heart raced, pounding against his chest like a frantic drum, each beat echoing in his ears. He tried to breathe, but the air felt thick. His hands trembled, the world around him blurring at the edges. He glanced around the arena, but everything felt too bright, too loud. The roar of the crowd pierced through his skin like a needle. The encampment leader rose, striking his axe against the arena floor. Good, good, he declared, a chilling smile creeping onto his face. You've earned the right to face Judge. Chants came across the crowd in unison. Judge, Judge, Judge. The arena fell silent as a massive figure stepped into view, his presence casting an oppressive shadow over the sand. The judge was a towering warrior, his body a canvas of scars and dark tattoos that traced across his chest and arms like a story written in pain. His braided hair streaked with gray hung down his back, and his sharp eyes glinted like steel under his heavy brow. In one hand, he gripped an enormous axe with a blade broad enough to cleave a man in two. In the other, a massive shield, pitted and cracked, bore the marks of countless battles. Galen's breath hitched as he stared at the hulking gladiator. Perhaps at full strength they could have stood a chance, but they were anything but at full strength. Fina lay in a crumbled heap. Haldor was bruised and battered, and Lily, clutching her chest with one hand while the other stretched weakly toward the pit, as if still trying to stop Pyro from falling in. Galen's knees buckled under the weight of despair, which crashed over him like an unrelenting tide. The inevitability of death felt all too real. Haldor, standing nearby, betrayed no emotion, but his trembling body revealed the strain he had fought to hide. His teeth clenched, his breaths slow and measured. Adjusting his grip on the axe, he began limping across the blood-stained sand toward Ghalen. Every step was deliberate, as though he were forcing his battered body to obey sheer willpower alone. The gladiator roared, whipping the crowd into a frenzy. "You die, whelps!" His booming voice echoed through the arena, feeding the bloodlust of the onlookers. Haldor continued his slow, painful advance toward Ghalen, while Fina writhed helplessly behind them, clutching her arms in pain. Then Lily let out a deafening scream, her voice splitting the air. Her eyes blazed with an intense blue light, glowing like a fire ignited by fury.